In a world dominated by 300-pound titans, where sheer mass often decides victory, a rare few chose a different path. They weren't the biggest, not even close, but what they lacked in size, they made up for with lightning speed, razor-sharp instincts, and unshakable courage. They didn't just survive in sumo's brutal arena. They defied the odds, thrilled the crowds, and carved their names into the sport's history. This is the story of sumo's best lightweights, small in stature, but giants in spirit. How does a man weighing just 256 pounds not only survive, but thrive? Meet Terao Nafumi, a Rikishi who didn't need bulk to make an impact. Tall, lean, and fast, he danced among monsters for 23 years, from 1979 to 2002. He wasn't built to overpower, he was built to outthink, outrun, and outlast. He debuted at just 16, carrying not just the hopes of his stable, but the legacy of his family. His mother's name, Setsuko, lived on in his first shikona, Terao Setsuo. From day one, he faced Goliaths, and he never flinched. How could a relatively light wrestler thrive in a sport where Rikishi average around 330 pounds, and some imposing titans reach 600 pounds? From day one, Terao stood out for his unique physique. At 6 feet 1 inch tall, his light frame, 256 pounds versus the 330 pounds average, gave him the air of a David facing Goliaths. Yet the scale did not define him. His secret lay in speed, in ingenuity, in every pound transformed into pure dynamism. Terao wasn't there to wrestle for grips. He was there to disrupt, disorient, and dominate at a distance. Before most opponents could even reach for his mawashi, they were already fending off a blinding barrage of tsupari. Rapid-fire thrusts to the chest that threw giants off their footing. No gripping, no waiting, just speed, angles, and relentless pressure. He mastered Oshisumo, the art of pushing and striking, turning his lighter frame into an advantage. At just 254 pounds, he fought in an era where most Rikishi tipped the scales at over 330. But weight alone doesn't win battles. Timing does. Technique does. With his low center of gravity and cat-like agility, Terao pushed opponents out of the ring with clean oshidashi and tsukidashi, and when the moment was right, he'd slip aside and slap down with a precise hataki komi, sending heavier men crashing to the clay. But his style came with risk. If a larger opponent caught him, if they managed to lock in and go chest to chest, yorikiri was almost inevitable. And yet, he danced on the edge of that danger his entire career. Because Terao didn't fight to overpower, he fought to outsmart. In January 1989, he shocked the sumo world, defeating Yokozuna Onokuni, a 463-pound mountain of a man. That Kinboshi wasn't just a win, it was a statement. Technique beats size, every time. Another amazing battle against giants was these. As the match begins, you'd expect Konishiki's sheer mass to dominate. But Terao unleashes a rapid tsupari barrage, immediately disrupting Konishiki's stance, a clear display of strategy over size. Instead of a head-on clash, Terao stays mobile, slipping to Konishiki's side. With impeccable timing, he uses Hiki Otoshi, a deft pulling slap, dumping the giant forward before a full-scale grapple can begin. But not every battle went his way. In 1991, an 18-year-old prodigy, Taka Hanada, outmuscled him in a grueling match. For Terao, it was his most disappointing loss. But instead of quitting, he pushed harder. He wasn't done proving that lightweights belonged on the dohyō. His rise was steady. From Juryo champion to top division fighter. He reached Megashira 1, claimed the Fighting Spirit prize, and even fought as Sekiwake, side by side with his brother, Sakahoko. If you saw him step onto the dohyō, you might have thought, is this guy really a sumo wrestler? Minumi looked more like a featherweight than a fighter in sumo's heaviest arena. In the 1990s, when giants roamed the dohyō, Minumi stood just 5 feet 5 inches and weighed 223 pounds, yet outsmarted them all. But his journey almost never began. Too short to qualify, he had silicone injected into his scalp, just to meet the height requirement. From there, he rocketed through the ranks, proving that brains and boldness could bend the rules and beat the heavyweights. His appearances? Deceptive. This man didn't fight with mass. He fought with mastery. They called him the warehouse of techniques. In a world where most wrestlers used a handful of classic moves, Mainumi had 33 up his sleeve. Need proof? Just watch his match against Akebono, the 441-pound titan. He uses the elusive Mitokorozeme, a triple attack. One leg trapped, the other hooked, and a head push to the chest. 3 moves, 1 moment, a giant crashing down. His secret wasn't just technique, it was unpredictability. Mainumi's Tachi-ai was unlike anything seen. He'd sometimes use the Nekodamashi, a sudden explosive clap right in the opponent's face to break their concentration. A psychological uppercut before the first step. And when it worked, his opponent never even saw it coming. Another signature move of the king of technique was the Hasotobi, or 8-boat jump, a lateral step during the Tachi-ai that saw him leap into the air and reappear behind his opponent, as he did against Kitakachidoki in January 1992. His successes against giants shook the very foundations of sumo. Against Konishiki, that Hawaiian of over 600 pounds who seemed impregnable, Mainumi moved with such dexterity that it looked as if he floated around him. With a couple of feints and quick thrusts at just the right instant, he managed to topple him or push him out of the dohyō more than once. In Nagoya 1996, Mainumi delivers the unthinkable. With a dazzling shitate hineri, he topples the massive Konishiki in one of the most technical upsets in sumo history. But victory comes at a cost. In the very act of defying gravity and size, Mainumi suffers an injury mid-match. The giant fell over his leg. Moments after defeating a titan, he bows out of the tournament, a hero undone by his own brilliance. You probably know this wrestler, but did you ever stop to wonder, how does someone just 5 feet 6 inches tall and weighing only 223 pounds survive in a sport dominated by men twice his size? At first glance, Enho looked more like a curious fan who'd accidentally wandered onto the dohyō than a Rikishi ready to take on giants. But in sumo, appearances are often deceiving. This wasn't a mismatch. It was the opening act of a masterclass in technique, timing, and pure heart. His unlikely journey began in March 2017, under the mentorship of none other than the legendary Yokozuna Hakuho Sho at the storied Miyagino stable. Just 2 months later, in the lowest division of Jonokuchi, Enho made his presence impossible to ignore, with a flawless 7-0 record. How did he do it? Not with brute strength, not by muscling through. Enho's arsenal was built on speed, precision, and creativity. His perfectly timed shitatinage throws left opponents spinning. His slick lateral steps at the Tachi-ai made larger Rikishi grasp the empty air. Every move was a calculated strike. In one unforgettable exhibition match against his own mentor, Hakuho, Enho pulled off something straight out of a movie. He ducked under a powerful thrust, slipped around like a shadow, and suddenly, he had the belt. The crowd froze. Was this a student outsmarting his master? Or a momentary glitch in sumo's laws of physics? But one of Enho's most jaw-dropping feats came not in a demonstration, but in battle, against Sadanumi. In a move that stunned fans and commentators alike, Enho coiled low and exploded upward with an ashitori, grabbing his opponent's leg in a rare, surgical strike. No pushing, no slapping, just pure timing and nerve. What makes a Rikishi great? Is it size, strength, or is it the ability to rewrite expectations every time you step on the dohyō? Moments like these remind us, in sumo, sometimes the smallest warrior carries the biggest impact. Enho didn't just compete, he stole the spotlight and redefined what's possible for the lightweights of sumo. In a sport defined by mass, power, and sheer force, Takanoyama Shuntaro looked like he had stepped out of another reality. Towering at 6 feet 1 inch, but weighing just 216 pounds, he wasn't just the lightest wrestler to reach the top division in modern sumo. He was something even more rare, an artist in a world of titans. While his opponents came charging like locomotives, Takanoyama moved like a matador, slipping past, twisting low, and using his rival's own momentum against them. His toolkit was dazzling. Classic iwatanage, elegant shitatanage, and his trademark kakanage, a dynamic inner thigh trip that spun giants off their feet. His knowledge was encyclopedic, with 37 different winning techniques used throughout his career. For fans, every bout felt like a display of ancient sumo poetry in motion. But it wasn't all grace and glory. Takanoyama's slender frame meant he often had to rely entirely on timing and guile. He couldn't afford to get caught in a grapple. When he reached the second highest Juryo division in July 2011, after 57 consecutive tournaments, it was already a miracle. Then, in September of that year, he broke into the top division, Makuchi, against Magashira Yoshizuma, who outweighed him by more than 150 pounds. Takanoyama delivered one of his most unforgettable performances, unleashing a flawless kakanage that left the crowd roaring. Still, sumo is merciless. Despite the flair his size caught up with him, that debut tournament in Makuchi ended with 5 straight losses and a 5-10 record. He bounced between Makuchi and Juryo, never quite finding the consistency to stay at the top. He knew gaining weight might have helped, but feared losing the very agility that made him special. It was a tragic balancing act between survival and self. His final tally: 325 wins, 318 losses, and 10 absences. Not flashy on paper, but numbers could never capture what he meant to fans. When he retired in 2014, he didn't cling on or drift away. He simply said, "I step onto the dohyō to win, and I can no longer win." No gold star, no grand championship. But in the hearts of sumo lovers, Takanoyama earned something deeper: reverence for proving that beauty, precision, and fearless creativity could still shake a stadium full of giants. In a sport where gravity favors giants and brute force dominates, how does a 253-pound underdog make his mark? Enter Midori Fuji Kazunari, just 5 feet 7 inches, light by sumo standards, but a master of speed, strategy, and surprise. He doesn't bulldoze opponents, he outsmarts them. Fans call him a modern trickster for good reason. With rare techniques and perfect timing, Midorifuji can flip a 400-pound giant before they know what hit them. Trained at Isagahama Stable, he debuted in 2016 and quickly became known for his signature move, Katasukashi, the under-shoulder swing down. It's a technique rarely seen, unless you're watching Midorifuji, who hits it like it's second nature. Picture it: a massive rikishi lunges forward, only to eat clay after a sharp sidestep and shoulder tug. But Midorifuji isn't just flashy. By January 2021, he stormed into the Makuchi division, racking up double-digit wins, and earned the Fighting Spirit prize just 2 months later. By reaching Magashira 1, he proved he was more than a novelty. He was a real contender. Sure, against the likes of Takakeisho or Mitakumi, his size can be a disadvantage. One strong push might end the match. But Midorifuji keeps coming back, adapting, learning, outmaneuvering. He doesn't survive by muscle. He thrives with craft, guts, and a deep love for the game. And if you love sumo like we do, don't forget to like and subscribe to SumoSpirit for more amazing stories from the dohyō.